Welcome to another episode of the AI Files, where we explore the fascinating world of artificial intelligence and its impact on various fields of education. Again, I'm your host, Corey Gill, and today I have a special guest, Clayton Rhodes, from Durham College in our Faculty of Liberal Studies, and he's here to share his insights on his personal use and the innovative way they've actually incorporated this into the COM 1100 course. So, welcome, Clayton.
Thank you, Corey, for having me. I really appreciate it. Great to be here today.
Awesome. Well, there's no point in playing around. We may as well dive right in. So I know you and I have done a kind of couple journeys there with AI, academic integrity, and AI. So I'm
hmm
curious though, how do you personally use AI in your daily life or work?
Uh, yeah, well, I use it a couple ways. One, in my personal life, I'll use it just to kind of play around. I will use it to help write some emails. In fact, over the summer, I don't know how to code, and I know nothing about coding. But one day in the summer, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to ask the Gen AI. I asked Copilot to code me a game. It was like a tic-tac-toe kind of game where I expanded the grid, and then I said like this is what I want. I want once you get three in a row, I wanted to give a point, and then once you get to 11 points, you're the winner. And it was just through trial and error. And I actually had to ask the Gen AI where I could run the code because I didn't even know that. So it was like, oh, you can use Notebook and copy paste the code and hit red. Like it explained to me how to even get the code to run exactly. So I did about a dozen trials, and then finally I kind of got a bit of a crude kind of tic-tac-toe game that would light up when you got three X's in a row or three O's in a row, and then once you got to 11, you were declared the winner of the game. So it was, but it was kind of fun just to play because I said, like in my personal life, I don't know how to code. I didn't know how to use the code or where I could apply it, but through the use of Gen AI and just playing, I could figure it out. At the college, uh, I pretty much use it every day. Predominantly, I'll use it to help me write emails, where I'll write an email and I'll ask Gen AI to either, do a little proofreading, editing, look for
Love that.
tone, professionalism, make sure I haven't really kind of missed anything. And most of the time, it does a good job fixing little small things that make it sound just a little cleaner, a little more professional, sometimes a little more condensed if I've written something too long. So, and then of course I use it in the classroom as well, pretty much every class. And because I've used it every week, one of the students said, "Let's see what Gen AI says." And then that's what I was like, that's what we're doing. And then I went to Copilot and Gemini, and I think I used Codebreaker. I used two or three and put in the same prompt and said, what makes a good group presentation? And then we compared what the students said in Padlet versus what uh, Copilot and Gemini kind of said as well. So lots of uses for it every day. And I can't think of a day where I haven't really played or tried something new.
I love it. I love how you've kind of explained, hey, I'm going outside of my comfort zone, but then at the same point in your class, you're bringing it into the student's comfort zone. I think that's very beneficial, right? Because even though students, when I talk to students, they're a little uncertain about how to use it. So
hmm
showing them how to use it's a great thing. Um, it's fascinating though, because you mentioned the classroom, and I love that. And you mentioned that you strengthen your own exploration in it. But I know in our conversations, you talked about the fact that you and the team have actually chosen to integrate AI into the COM 1100 course. I wonder if you can share what drove that and maybe even what some of the outcomes have been.
Really what we're trying to do at the college is prepare students for the workplace so that they're successful in the workplace.
Awesome.
And kind of the mantra at the college has been our students aren't going to lose their jobs to Gen AI. They're going to lose their jobs to someone who knows how to use the generative AI. So why would we not have our students know how to start using prompts or think about prompts so that they get the output that they're looking for? So for us, when we were revising the COM 1100 course, it was almost a no-brainer that we wanted to incorporate the use of generative AI right into the course. And it actually is one of the fourth learning outcome where we have students, they need to learn how to use the generative AI and we evaluate it.
Awesome. So
So
it's measured. I love that.
it's measured, yeah. And it's good for a couple reasons. One, it does get the students using it, but it also gets the faculty using it too, especially those who maybe are not comfortable. And so we did it a couple ways. One, we have an email assignment, but we ask the students to deliberately write, like type out an email with errors and mistakes. And then we ask them to use the generative AI and the prompts to see if it catches the mistakes. and put it in a professional tone or clean it up in a certain way. So we give them a scenario where they're writing an email, but deliberately making those mistakes, using their critical thinking skills to evaluate what the generative AI has done, and then doesn't need any further revisions. And then the other thing I have them do, at least in my class, and I think the others did as well, is not using just one Gen AI. Use
Right.
Copilot, use Gemini, use Find, use Codebreaker. Because they're all a little bit different in the way they approach the prompts that you enter and what are those prompts that you enter. So we did that. And the other thing we did was proofreading editing activity where we have a paragraph where there's multiple spelling and grammar errors. And we asked the students to see if they can find the errors first and then use it to say, oh, okay, Copilot found 9 of the 10 errors, but Gemini found these other errors. And as much as it's about teaching students how to use proper prompts, and I know CTL has a fantastic graph or guide in terms of prompt writing. We have that graphic in COM 1100 in the PowerPoint slides when we're teaching prompt writing.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so yeah, we incorporated it so the students can use those formulas to help with their prompt writing, and so it's good for the students, but because it kind of takes away a little bit of that taboo as well, like I'm using generative AI and I'm using ChatGPT, and when you take that away, it's almost a bit of a letdown for the students in a bit of a
Yeah.
way because like this guy knows, like how did he know about ChatGPT? That was our secret kind of thing, right? But
Profs aren't supposed to know
uh,
about the cool tools we use.
exactly, yeah. But for the most part, like when the students start to feel comfortable, they see the professor using it, and I get up and I say, I don't know what's going to happen, and let's put it in, and we see what happens. And I said, well, let's see what happens if I change the prompt, and just watching this for the students, just watching their faculty play and learn as we are. I think it gives them permission to say, oh, I can play, learn, and go from there. So.
I think it's incredible that you guys chose to do that, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity to bring AI to their experience. Because as you say, we talk to PACs and whatnot, and they're all talking about the fact program advisory committees. For those who don't know, we talk to our PACs, and they talk about the fact that it's being used in the workplace, and at least it's growing in use in the workplace, and they're going to expect students to be able to use it. So
Mhm.
opening that door early on in their education it's a great opportunity. It's interesting too. We've talked a few times about how do we still get the talent students need to be that critical thinking and knowledgeable, but in this new world. And you mentioned find the mistakes yourself, and
Mhm.
then see if AI can do it. And I'm wondering how student response has been to that kind of an approach. And it's a great way, but it changes the mind. And I'm curious how they take to it.
My experience so far is students actually have been really open to it. They want to use the generative AI and having the opportunity to kind of do it, but use it in a critical kind of way, I think has really helped them become more effective prompt writers. And so one of the things like I did in one classroom, we kind of touched on this in earlier conversations, was how many R's are in strawberry and
Right.
putting into ChatGPT or Copilot. And right now it still spits out, I don't know if I haven't tried it lately, but it still spits out 2 R's. And
Yeah, I
then
got
you
to give
kind
you
of have
props on that. I've been sharing with everybody, but I've been
yep.
giving source credit to you. But
Oh, yeah. Actually it was another faculty member that sent me a TikTok
okay,
video of someone who was doing exactly that and going through the whole conversation. So when I'm talking about generative AI and the use in the classroom and making sure students are critical, it's no different than when you go to Google. Like you don't click on the first thing that Google pops up because it might be a sponsored content or something. So the same way we teach students about being aware of the internet and what pops up when you do a Google search, it's really parallels the same thing with, okay, yeah, you're using ChatGPT, but you still have to be critical of what the output is that it comes up with because it will tell you there's 2 R's in strawberry. And so when I do that demonstration to the students, it's just a bit of a warning saying, hey, you just can't believe what comes out. You have to take a step back and say, does it make sense? Has it provided me with the sources? And actually, that's what I like about Copilot. Copilot will very often provide you the source of where that content where it came from. So student reaction has been they've really well received. They want to use it. I think they want to use it in a way that still has academic integrity, and they just don't know how. and they're kind of afraid. But if the guy at the front of the room is saying this is how you do it, and this is how you can do it without breaching academic integrity, then that's the next step. So I think for them a bit of a relief, and that
Right.
they have permission to use it, they can use it, and now they're going to learn how to use it.
That consent component. That's good. Now,
Hmm.
I got to kind of break because you mentioned academic integrity and this, and I think there's a lot of faculty, educators, whatnot out there that look at that and go, okay, how do I actually ensure if I allow them to use AI, how do I ensure academic integrity and AI responsibility or responsible use of AI in the assignments? Any advice to that since you're living the real world now?
Well, it's fluid and always changing because, as you and I both know, today is the worst day generative AI is going to be, and tomorrow it's going to get even better. So I think a fluid, open approach is kind of the best way to do it. One way to make sure there's no issues in terms of academic integrity is take a look at the assessments and say, is this something generative AI can do? And actually, that was the first thing when ChatGPT exploded. In my history of hockey class, I had an assignment where students had to write a paragraph about an honored member of the Hall of Fame or historical hockey trophy. And that was the first thing I did. I was like, "Du-du-du-du-du," and then, oh my God, like it spit out a perfect assignment in a matter of seconds. So I knew that that assessment was no longer valid, that I couldn't use that assessment anymore. And so actually what I did was I went to ChatGPT and I said, I need an assessment to replace this one that generative AI cannot easily replicate. And it came up with an interview assignment. And so now, in place of this paragraph assignment I used to do, I have students doing an interview assignment with a hockey fan, generally like their grandparents or an older relative or something like that. And I have a series of questions. And uh, actually, it's a better assessment. And the students
Nice.
enjoy it a lot more. And I can tell when I listen to the interviews or watch the video of the interview, the person they're interviewing is clearly happy and excited to be, engaged in this. It actually turned out to be a bit of a blessing in that I had this old assessment that was just writing a paragraph, and it turned into something far more engaging, something that uh, really enhance the students' durable skills in terms of their creativity skills, their writing skills, their interview skills, their organizational skills, all of these durable skills that they can take with them into the workplace, no matter what career they go into. And embrace the ambiguity is what we say in my creativity gen ed class.
Nice.
I think we're at a stage right now in post-secondary education where we really need to embrace the ambiguity and be open to new ideas.
I love that. It's funny because you mentioned a lot of my students over the years have said like sometimes your assignments are ambiguous, and I keep telling them that's intentional, right?
Hmm.
Because it's harder to use Gen AI for ambiguity. You need critical thinking to overcome abstract concepts and ambiguity. When we try and figure out how to limit the role AI plays, the introduction of ambiguity actually does that in a creative way. And I like the fact that you mentioned you use AI to beat its own
Yeah.
capabilities, right? So very unique, right? And so if you were going to talk to another faculty member or whatnot that kind of looked at that and went, oh, aha, I never thought about that. If someone was going to start out and say, hey, I've got this assignment that could easily be taken on by AI, how do I start prompting AI to revisit it?
Play. Uh, just start with playing. Just open up Copilot, open up Gemini, ask it to write an email to your dean about why you missed the meeting, but in a way that SpongeBob SquarePants would write the email,
Love it.
or Hulk Hogan, or Batman, and then compare what's the difference between SpongeBob's email versus Hulk Hogan's email versus Batman's email or something like that. That's the first thing I'd say for that low level is just start to play yourself. Just goof around and just see what it spits out, and then modify, play, change. So for those low levels, that's where I think the real starting point is. It's just to become comfortable with it. And then once you become comfortable, then I think the next step is where you say, okay, Gen AI, I have this assignment, and this is what the students do, and but I want to modify it so it's a little more difficult for a Gen AI to answer the questions completely. What kind of things do you recommend or suggest? And actually, the one thing I really recommend is putting in a number. I want 10 suggestions. I want 15 suggestions. I want
Nice.
5 suggestions, and then pick 3 or 4 of them and say, okay, expand on. You gave me these 5 suggestions, expand on it and treat it as if you're having a conversation, because that's really the one advantage of Gen AI is that it is like you are having a conversation, like you're texting with someone, even though it's a generative AI. So for me, the advice would be start slow, start with your own comfort level, play, goof around, make mistakes, see if you can trip up the AI, challenge it a little bit, and then once you start feeling comfortable playing for 5 or 10 minutes a day, just go from there.
I like that. I also like I pick up a couple things there too, and that you mentioned like have a natural conversation with it. So we don't have to think cryptically or creatively or anything. You can
Mhm.
actually sit there and go, "Hey, I've been using this for 10 years. Is this something you can easily handle?" And AI would tell you, "Yes, I would just answer it this way." And then you can look at that
Mhm.
and go, "Oh my gosh, um, how do I fix that?" And it would actually start to tell you how to fix that. And I like the idea of the number of answers because I remember there's been times I've sat there and say, "Can you give me 5 examples?" And it would give me five. I'm like, "I don't like these. Can you give me 10 more?" And it would give me 10 more, and I'd be like, "I'm still not there. Can we try another five?" And it would just keep working, and it's never upset with you. It's like, "Yeah,
No.
sure, I can give you more." So I like that. So great stuff. I appreciate that, Clayton. All right, so here's kind of the big one then. You know, if you start looking at education and your own usage of it, your utilization of the student's grasp of it, particularly in your world, so let's call it the comm courses and the other, liberal studies, gen ed type world, what potential do you see for AI transforming education as we walk that path?
I think education is probably ready for a big disruption, and this is the disruption we probably need. And as I think the media, in some ways, the media and television and movies, they have done a very good job of creating a little bit of fear of generative AI. It's going to take over the world. The robots are going to run everything, and I think we just need to kind of take a little bit of step back and just take a deep breath and say, okay, like it's not like that right now. Um,
I like that. I just want to throw it there too. Like we said the same thing
yeah.
about the internet, about robot automation on line work and things like. And it's never taken over the world. It's changed things. It's never taken it over.
Hmm.
So
So it's just my own thoughts, but I do see a world where we can use generative AI as a tool to customize and personalize the educational experience for the student. And as I was telling you before we started, like if I have students I know that could do my gen ed courses or my comm courses, they could probably do them in 10 or 12 weeks. And I have other students that maybe they would need 16 weeks to be successful. So why do we have this 14-week box?
yeah.
And maybe generative AI can help us get out of that 14-week box and create a custom experience for the student where they wind up actually being more successful. Because at the end of the day, we want our students to be successful in post-secondary so that when they go on to an employer, they again are very successful. And if a student needs 15, 16 weeks and we can use generative AI to create a custom course or program that they'll be successful in that time period, we should be doing that. If the student can demonstrate an understanding of the course learning outcomes, what's the time restraint? So I see a world where we have a student, we have the accommodations that maybe they need, and we could input that into a generative AI, compare it to a COM 1100, and create a custom course. And then in some ways, it's almost like a flipped classroom. They could use the hybrid time to learn the material and then come back into the classroom, and then we can do the class discussions or evaluations or class activities to enhance whatever it is that that student is learning within that particular time. So a little bit of a utopia kind of view, but I think at the end of the day, we could do a lot to improve the student experience with the use of generative AI once we start to become comfortable with it and see what the real potential is. And I think that real potential isn't about taking over the world, but instead enhancing our experience in the world and making our lives a little bit better.
Yeah, enabling the world. And it's funny, I'm mentioning props to Jonathan Kerrigan because he and I have had this conversation a couple times, but the whole idea that generative AI is another means of actually interacting with the student and gathering information that we as educators can use. So rather than
Hmm.
be fearful of it or whatnot, figure out how it can amass this information and share it with us in a very logical way that helps us better enable the students on their journey rather than forcing the students to follow our journey, right?
Yeah,
So.
exactly.
So I like that. Excellent. Well, thank you, Clayton. I don't have any more questions for you because I can clearly see how you see AI and transforming education, how you participate in that transformation. And it's clear that that in your world, anyways, and your students are going to benefit from this. It'll play a significant role in the courses and the outlooks that you develop. So thank you for sharing those insights.
Oh, thanks very much for having me. And if there's anyone listening that would like to chat or talk to me about how we incorporated the use of Gen AI in our COM 1100 or how I do it in the classroom, I'm happy to meet with anybody and sit down and have a chat. So thanks for the opportunity to share my story today.
There you go, open access to, and if you're not sure how to get a hold of Clayton, you can reach it myself, the CTL, or the Faculty of Liberal Studies, and they put you in touch with them, no problem. And to our listeners, Clayton and I hope that you found this discussion enlightening. We encourage you to explore the use of AI in your own educational and professional context, even in your personal context. Maybe you can create a better X's and O's game and share it with Clayton on the weekend, and you guys can battle online. Um, Anyways, until then, what I would ask you is be curious, be innovative, and let AI inspire your journey.